So we've talked a bit or touched on at least sometimes that when Johnson finally leaves, or shall we say, in the case of what we're about to discuss, if if he leaves, um, he will cause a absolute trouble on the backbenchers. He is going to be a pain for either Rishi or for Liz. And certainly he does not want Rishi and has, for what we've at least heard, done things to try and sabotage Rishi's chances. Now, how true that is and what he's done exactly, we don't know. All we know that that's the claim that's been made. We haven't actually seen any concrete evidence that he has actually gone and tried to sabotage Rishi Sunak's campaign. However, one thing has been very clear, even during his resignation speech, while he said, he would leave, it was very, very much indignant. And you may remember when we watched it live, I described it as almost this is a child throwing a tantrum about, being told no. And that's generally what it felt like. I think other people have sort of described it in a very similar way, but that's how I certainly saw it at the time. And I think that's certainly how it's going to go down. But of course, more worryingly, you may remember on that morning in particular, I went out and did a live stream. And I was like, look, Johnson is causing a constitutional crisis. He is not going. You've got minister after minister after minister resigning. And at that point, the government could not run. It could not run committees. It could not run any meetings. There was no senior minister in charge, meaning that decisions could be made within those different departments. Effectively, at that point, the government just could not run. And I was convinced at that moment in time, Johnson was just going to stay. He was just going to stay and stick it out. And you may remember, I think it was for about 30 or so minutes, I laid out the scenario to you of this is what's going to happen. We are going to have a country with a prime minister who refuses to go, who is being told by his party to go. But of course, the 1922 committee, I think, would have finally stepped in and said, look, we're going to have an immediate vote so you can, decide if or not he would have won that. Who knows? But very, very much so, Johnson, I think, had decided that he regrets now resigning. There is a lot of talk coming from people that have known him, or at least people who've had meetings with him, saying that he regrets resigning, that was not something that he wanted to do. And now thinks that he could have done something different. What exactly? Who knows? But there is a very serious problem, because here's the thing: the leader of sort of the opposition, the leader of the sort of Conservative Party and the Prime Minister are technically two different positions. So even if we are currently electing a new leader of the Conservative Party, it is not a guaranteed transition, because again, there's this sort of it's part of sort of our unwritten constitution that sort of the leader of sort of that particular party is prime minister. But here's the thing: because again, as we have seen throughout all of Johnson's administration, because this is part of our sort of unwritten constitution, that it is sort of the leader of the sort of the winning party sort of takes up that position, appointed in case by the Queen, to then go and form a cabinet. There is a very serious chance that we are now seeing that Johnson not only regrets resigning, has said to some people that he'll be prime minister again within a year. And worryingly, there are some people now again, this is the worry that Jonson might cause a constitutional crisis. You could have either Liz or Rishi win, become the leader, and then say, I'm not resigning. Because as far as I am aware, Jonson has not been to see the Queen to tell her that he is resigning as Prime Minister. That should worry a lot of people. Now, I don't know whether or not that happened. Like I say, obviously, when Jonson resigned, there was a lot of backing and coming and going, to back and throwing, shall we say. But it certainly seems to me Jonson, if he wanted to, could cause an absolute constitutional crisis by basically just saying, well, I'm refusing to step down to my position of Prime Minister. He could play his very much wanted card, which he likes to play, of, look, I was elected by this massive mandate. Now, of course, that's not happened. This isn't a presidential system, it's a parliamentary system, and people vote for the parties and the MPs that they want in their area, not for the president. That's not how our system works, but that's the way that Jonson seems to be treating it. And if that is treating it that way, then there are now two potential scenarios that we can lay out. One is that after this leadership competition in September, Jonson basically flat up refuses to go. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but then again, he was smart enough to see that the writing was on the wall. So I don't think that is a likely scenario. But if we have been seeing these articles of Jonson saying that if he thinks he has enough support within his party membership to stay, that he might stay. We've also seen the push from people like Lord Carruthers, Lord Carruthers, who is being pushed by more and more of the membership. Again, we don't know if they're sort of Conservative Party members or not. We don't fully know that. But he is saying he's been backed by a very large group of people who are saying, look, we want Boris's name on that ballot, along with, Liz and Rishi. Let us make the decision. So that is a possible reason. And of course, the other thing that could happen is that, oh, yes, I'll be Prime Minister again within a year. Let's unpack that one, shall we? So we've always said November time is going to be crunch time for whoever gets in. You're going to have all these crises, the energy crisis, the cost of living crisis, all these different things coming together, inflation, you name it, coming together. And it is going to explode all over whoever it is, Liz or Rishi. And if it is Liz, bear in mind that Dominic Cummings, nicknamed her the hand grenade, because again, when you nickname someone the hand grenade, it's not very good sort of nickname to have, that says she'll just, explode all over a department. And this is where I think he's expecting, and why he's backing Liz Truss. He's expecting her to fail and fail massively so that he can sail back in at a potential leadership contest, and he can stir up enough resentment on those backbenchers to say, gee, you should have never gotten rid of me, guys. This would have never have happened if I was in. And Jonson will start to cause trouble. He will take advantage of everything that he can, knowing full well that he, for that moment, will be very much untouchable. Just like Theresa May was, Boris Johnson went nowhere near Theresa May. And yet, May didn't cause trouble for Jonson, certainly put in the boot in when she could. But Jonson will start to cause a lot of trouble on those backbenchers. And even if the 1922 committee does get him, not the ethics, the standards committee gets him, all they can't not make him an MP anymore. All they can do is just ban him from Parliament for 30 days. So I do not think we have seen the last of Jonson. I really do not. And that should be worrying for a lot of us, because the potential for him to start a constitutional crisis, as I've already said on a number of times, I think we'll be doing this Tory leadership song and dance in another, 6, possibly even 12 months from now, because again of like the crisis that's going to hit in November. So he could make try and make an attempt at the leadership comeback during then. Yeah, trust me, Jonson is far from over from causing trouble, and he has a lot of trouble still he could cause for whoever takes over from him. So with that said, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the YouTube subscription button as well, where you get sort of badges, emojis, and whatnot when you do that thing on YouTube. And of course, thank you very much for watching. And of course, well, I've said of course too many times now, but yes, we'll see you all next time.